Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and we're going to talk about cables today, actual cables. We're not going to talk about cable science, although I have a series out there talking about why we humans can quite possibly hear differences in audio cables. What I'm going to do in this video is talk about some actual headphone cables that I've been using and do a mini review of a bunch of them. This is going to be broken into two parts because I have a bunch of cables. Let me show you what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's a bunch. Okay. We're going to divide this video into two parts. In part one, we're going to talk about like entry level and kind of middle of the road, mid-range in terms of price and quality headphone cables. And then in part two, we're going to get into the higher end stuff, things that are say north of, about $400 or so. Okay. A lot of these I have either bought or they were included with headphones that I bought used, or a manufacturer reached out to me and just said, hey, we're going to send you these. Can you say something about them? That has happened in a couple of them. These two, the Gladiators there, and this one, a Lavra cable. So we're going to do shameless self-promotion. If we come back and we look at the lower end ones, that's going to be part one. If it's the high end ones, it's part two. But either way, shameless self-promotion, and let's get on with it.
Hi, I'm Wave Theory's human companion, and he wants you to know that your support of this YouTube channel helps keep the reviews coming. If you enjoy Wave Theory's honest, thorough style, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the links in the description below to sign up for the Patreon or send him a tip through PayPal. All right, enjoy the musings.
Hey guys, Wave Theory again. Just want to jump in and make a few general comments before we get into the video proper and just stress a couple of points before we get into it. One, all of the cables that I'm about to show you can come in multiple different connector type options. So you're going to see most of the cables that I have. There are exceptions, but most of the cables that I have here use a 4-pin XLR balance connector at the amp end. Many of them will have a dual 3.5 millimeter connection at the headphone end, or they will be mini XLR, and I do have a couple of Utopia cables with those LEMO connectors. I bring this up to make it very clear in case you're kind of new to all of this and you just may not know, is that you can get pretty much any of these cables with any kind of connector types that you want. You just have to go to these companies' websites and put it in your order that you want a 6.35 millimeter TRS single-ended plug on the amp end and a dual Sennheiser 2-pin kind of connector at the headphone end, just as an example, but you can change all of these things in a lot of ways. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's known and that that's out there. And I will put links in the description to all of the cables that you are about to see. So expand the description there, go to these companies' websites, check them out, support them. I like supporting small businesses like this, so please do check them out. Also, I do not have any affiliate links with any of these cables that you're going to see. I don't really have any deals with any of these cables. Again, most of them I either bought directly myself or they came bundled with a headphone that I bought as like a used set. Okay, it was thrown in there as an extra incentive to get to buy from that, private seller there. So that happens sometimes. The Gladiator cables came to me directly from Gladiator cables too. So thanks to Antonio. Antonio has been very helpful, but he has made no attempt to influence my opinion on this. So everything I'm about to say about his cables are my own thoughts. And then the Lavra cable that you're going to see in part 2 of this video was donated by a friend of the channel. Was donated to the channel by a friend of the channel. So, and then the Dana Cables Lazuli that you're going to see in part 2 is also a loan from a friend of the channel that will be going back to the friend of the channel. Likewise with the Elitech Inferno that you're going to see in part 2 as well. That is a loan from a friend of the channel. Otherwise, I own all of the others through, the means that I just described. Okay. Finally, I am going to say that I do hear cable differences, in my own testing. I have blind tested myself on hearing cable differences. I hear them pretty consistently. Some of you may not believe that. Unfortunately, these blind tests were done before I launched this channel, so I really didn't get it on video or I'd show it to you. Okay, but I do have some new cables that coming in, so hopefully I'm able to do some blind test results in the future with that. But I also have a video series out where I talk about the science behind why we humans might in fact be able to hear differences in audio cables. So I will put a link to that down below as well. Please check that out. And there are future installments of that coming very soon. Part 5 is the episode where I'm going to tie all of those ideas together. That is probably somewhere between 85 and 90% complete. The next 10 to 15% are the slow part because I really want to make sure that that argument is clear and accessible, and that takes time to flesh all of that out, but it is in the works, so be on the lookout for that soon. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's get into a bunch of mini reviews of a bunch of different headphone cables that I have been using. Here we go. All right, quasi-overhead view here. Let's start with kind of the entry-level cables. Good, solid options for if you're just wanting to get into the custom cable game. You know, you don't have super fancy, super high-end headphones, but you've got decent ones, and either you don't like the way the stock cable feels, or, you know, they're a hi-fi man and they got that little treble peak going on in there that's annoying and you want to get rid of that. All right, two really good options, Hart audio cables and Audiophile Ninja. Okay, let's talk about both of these. Now, a lot of these cables, custom cables and all that you see here, aftermarket cables that you see that I have are going to be dual 3.5 millimeter. That's just because I have a lot of hi-fi mins around. I modded my Beyer Dynamic DT880 to accept dual 3.5 millimeter. I have a couple of focals around that are dual 3.5 millimeter. You know, those kinds of things. And like several aftermarket headphones that come in are dual 3.5 millimeter. So I have a lot of these. I do have some that are other connection types, and we'll talk about those too. But both of these companies offer a variety of different connectors on the headphone end. So you can get dual 3.5, you can get dual 2.5, you can get mini XLR, you can get Sennheiser style, you can get the Dan Clark sort of, they're kind of like mini XLR, but they have that spring-loaded mechanism on them. Like you can get a bunch of different kinds there and all of that. So both good options to explore. Let's look a little bit more deeply at the Hart first, and then we'll talk about the Audiophile Ninja. All right, Hart's system, and I got a custom color paracord on here. So that one thing they offer is a lot of customization options for the appearance. Okay, I went with this, I forget what this is called, okay, but you get a lot of different options for paracord that goes over the conductor so you can look at any way you want. Now, one thing unique about Hart is they are a modular system. Most of their headphone cables, particularly their custom ones, end in this female mini 4-pin XLR or 4-pin mini XLR connector. Then they sell what they call interconnects that match those, where you can get balanced 4-pin XLR, you can get 1/4-inch TRS. They also, I mean, they have just about every kind of plug type that you want that you can match to these, okay? And they do just, I mean, they swap in and out just like this, okay? Really simple, really clean. This is a tremendous advantage. Like if you were like me and you're kind of starting out in this game and you have a bunch of like under $200 headphones lying around and they all have different connector types, I bought a clutch of Harts for a reasonable price that had a bunch of different connectors on this end, and then I got their interconnect kit that had 4-pin XLR, had the 1/4-inch, it had 1/8 inch, it had the 3.5 millimeter TRRS balanced, it had Pentacon, it had the 2.5 millimeter TRRS balanced, and all of that. So you can do all of that. The these also like just, they don't tangle very much. So just the way these are made, and they're very soft and supple, and they coil well, and then they stay coiled. Like ergonomically, Harts are really, really good. Okay, I really like them from an ergonomic sense. I mean, you can see that didn't unspool a whole lot there. And they feel really nice and that sort of thing. The pricing on these, the headphone cable here, they're brand specific interconnected. This one is about $42. And then the interconnect types vary a little bit in price. Like the 4-pin XLR is $20. The 3.5 millimeter single-ended is $13. I think this one is $16. Maybe it's $17, something like that if you get them separately. And then of course they sell an interconnect kit, to which I think is about $90. That has like all of the different interconnect types you could want in there as well. So Hart is a really good, solid option. They sound decent. They are ergonomically friendly. If you need a clutch of like a lot of flexibility in your cabling and you need it like fast and relatively cheap, it's really the cheapest way to get in going that way. But Harts have saved, like I had the Meze 109 Pro in, and the stock cable on that was just super bright, super peaky in the treble. Harts really chilled that out. And then also they have the thin barrels on the connectors here, which fit into the recessed jacks of the 109 Pro. Hi-Fi Men has a similar problem with their cables. These help a lot. Surprisingly, the one headphone that I have found that does not work well with the Hart, and I don't know why this is, it's just whatever conductor type they use, and I'm not sure what conductor type they use, honestly. Some kind of hybrid, I believe. But the focal radiance, just these do not match well with the focal radiance, but that has been about the only headphone that didn't work at least okay on Harts. So this is a really good entry point, okay? Easy to recommend there. The other one at the entry level that is a really good quality option and a real serious contender is Audiophile Ninja. Again, I went dual 3.5 here on the headphone end because I just have a lot of those around. Audiophile Ninja uses like a pure copper conductor that isn't like super fancy and all that, but it's all copper conductor. It's not quite as supple or soft as the Hart, okay, but it also doesn't have a whole lot of memory. It still lies nice and flat on your desk. It does not tangle very much. You still have a nylon coating, but you also see it's a much thicker, it's a heavier duty cable on that. It's a higher gauge in terms of that and all that and so forth. These warm the sound even more than like the Harts do. I mentioned those treble peaks in like the Meze 109 Pro, so several Hi-Fi Mens that come from the stock cables and those things. These do an even better job smoothing out that treble peak, and these are just like, they are a warm, smooth sounding cable. It's not that there isn't brightness and all that, but if you are a treble sensitive listener, and you are easily fatigued by a lot of brightness, these can really help chill out some of that brightness. A lot, I think in large part because of that copper conductor in there. They also have a nice wide sound stage and some good holography for the price and all that. And on the subject of price, it varies a little bit depending on the connector types you want and all of that, but this one right here, their prices vary from about 60 to 105 US dollars, again, depending on the length that you go for and connector type. I got this one and a XLR to 1/4-inch single-ended adapter thing on the end of this here, out the door, all of plus shipping, about $106, I think, okay, for that, which is pretty reasonable as far as prices go. So anyway, as far as getting into aftermarket headphone cables, both Hart and Audiophile Ninja get a thumbs up from me. Good stuff. Okay, so just look at the different options and like what you want. I do think that we'll just go ahead and talk a little bit more direct comparison sonically between these two, as I did a sonic comparison on my DT880, on my Focal Radiance, and on a couple of Hi-Fi Mans, like even the high-end HE1000 SE was one of them that I did this on, and the new Ananda Nano, which I am working on a review for. Okay, did a quick comparison of these on. Okay, these are warmer, smoother, control the treble a little bit bigger, and like they a little bit wider soundstage, and it's a little bit more coherent in the imaging and the separation. Sounds a little bit more like put together, and there's more flow to it. These have, these still do a good job of controlling treble sharpness and all of that, so they're not out of control. These allow the mids to stand out just a little bit more, so they're just a touch more mid forward than these are. They are a little bit brighter than these are. So the detail retrieval, these are going to sound, they're going to come across as having a little bit more clarity and a little bit more resolution to them. I think it is connected to the slight bit more brightness, but it does initially present as being more detailed, and they are certainly more detail forward than these are. I don't think that the Audiophile Ninja lacks any resolution as compared to the Hart. It's just that the Hart presents that resolution, that detail retrieval in a little bit more forward way. Okay, so just preferences there. They are reasonably close in price. The Audiophile Ninja is just a little bit more expensive, not a lot, but again, excellent starting points, both of them. Links in the description below for both Hart Audio and Audiophile Ninja. Okay, let's move into some mid-range territory here. So these would be kind of like middle of the road price-wise. So more expensive than the Hart or the Audiophile Ninja, but not shoot the moon expensive either, at least on the scale of what you could be paying. And we'll save the higher end stuff for the next video, the part 2 of this. Okay, so let's look at what we have here. I have right here, this is a Gladiator cable from their Caesar line. This is the Fusione Harmony. Fusion Harmony, there's an E on the end of the word fusion, so I don't know if you pronounce it or not, okay? But anyway, link in the description if you want to see that there. This is a hybrid conductor. It is a Japanese OCC copper plus an OCC silver alloy Litz. The starting price for this is 180 euro, which at time of this filming converts to about 192 US dollars. This one is terminated in dual mini XLRs. When Antonio, who owns Gladiator Cable, sent me these, he said that this particular cable with this conductor type was known to match well to Audizy's LCD2. And I have an old LCD2 pre-phaser around, and he wanted to know my opinion on whether or not this did in fact synergize well with the LCD2, and yeah, it does. Okay, he was right about that. So this is one contender. We'll talk more about it in a moment. I have here another dual 3.5 millimeter. This is the Corpse Cable GraveDigger. Okay, this starts at about 195 US dollars. It uses the Cardass golden ratio conductor wire. Okay, and you can see, I mean, it's written, I'll flip it around so you can see it better. It's written right on there. We have Corpse Cable GraveDigger, made in USA by Cardass Audio. Okay, there you go. All right, so we will talk more about that one here in just a moment. The other contender is the Forza AudioWorks Noir Hybrid HPC. This is another mini XLR one. Okay, this is, let's see, this uses a copper-silver hybrid alloy, again, in the conductor type. All right, it sells for, or the list price on this is 229 euro, which at time of filming it converts to about 243 US dollars. Okay, so again, I went XLR here, and then I have the mini XLR on that one. And so more about this one here in just a moment. Then this next one, I debated as to whether or not it should be considered mid-range or high-end, because it's kind of like on the borderline price-wise. But in terms to balance out the content of part 1 and part 2 of this little video series, we're going to put it here in the mid-range cables. And it's another Gladiator cable. This is also from their Caesar line. It is the Argento in there, which uses a pure silver Litz conductor. It is 300 euros starting price, and that translates to about 320 US dollars. Okay, so that's, I mean, that's why I was thinking, you know, 320 US dollars. Are we talking about a high-end cable here? Is it a mid-range cable here? It's closer to these in price than some of the higher-end ones that I'm going to show you in part 2. So we'll put it here to balance out the content, okay, of the videos and so forth. So yeah, all right, let's take a quick look at all of these here a little bit more individually. Now that we know what the contenders are, let's start with the lower priced Gladiator here. So again, this is the Fusion Harmony, copper silver alloy lits. One nice touch that Antonio did on these cables that I like is like here where the wires split, he put like this Gladiator helmet, which is kind of cool. Just gives these things a unique charm to it, all of that. And then suddenly, the wire that comes out of the right side of the helmet, so like what would be the right side if you were to wear it, goes to the right headphone cup, and the one that comes out of the left side goes to the left headphone cup. Okay, pretty cool there. All right, so starting length here, I mean, he sent me about, I think these are about 1.5 meters long, which is about 4.5 feet. Okay, right around in there. This is a pretty solid cable here. I mean, they are nice and supple. These lay on the desk nicely, like you can see when I coil them up. Okay, they, for the most part, that is one thing. Is the one downside of that Gladiator helmet is it does snag every now and then. Okay, but other than that, like you coil these up, they stay pretty nicely coiled. Okay, and neat. They don't tangle a whole lot, though they do tangle some. Okay, but they still feel pretty nice to use. He puts good quality connectors on them. Like these are the Mini XLR again, and like these are pretty good quality connectors here. Okay, sonically, what happens with these? They are very clean in the treble. They are not necessarily treble relaxed. There is a little bit of brightness to them. It's not sharp or harsh to my ear, but it is a little bit more treble forward. It also has pretty good tone and timbre through the mid-range and decent bass timbre, though it's not really like a really warm or bassy cable there. I think this matches well to the LCD2. Again, I have an LCD2 pre-phaser, one of the really old ones, and that's a very warm sounding headphone that has a bit of a roll off in the top end. So this having a little bit more treble presence. Again, it's not sharp, it's not peaky, it's not overly bright, but having a little bit more treble presence complements that treble roll off in the LCD2 really well. But if you have one of the brighter LCDs out there, like a Legacy LCD-X or something like that, this may not match quite as well to that because, again, they a little bit of extra treble in there. So, but I have enjoyed using this with my LCD2. It also sounded pretty good with I had the Auroras Borealis and Australis headphones in, which I did reviews for. I'll put links down in the description where I used that with those, because those were also Mini XLR. That sounded pretty good too. Okay, the next one up in price here was the Corpse Cable GraveDigger. And the biggest complaint I have about this one is that it's one of the least like lying on the desk friendly, and it's one that has the most memory of the ones I have shown you so far, and so it can kind of tangle up a little bit because whatever coating they put over top of the individual conductors, it is a little bit on the stiff side, okay, in terms of using it. Then it does this kind of thing, like almost like little kinks in it sometimes, which can get caught, you know, on things every now and then. So yeah, I mean, you can just kind of see it kind of twists around on itself and all of that. But a very well-rounded sound profile for this one. Like this cable does a good to excellent job sonically with everything that I've tried it with. And I've had it around a long time. Like I've had this one for a good while. This one has been tried on a large number of hi-fi mins that I've had it through here, including the HE1000 SE, including the Susvara. Some of their mid-range offerings, like the new Aria Organic, I used this as part of that review for the listening there. And then, let's see, Focals, like I used this cable when I reviewed the Stellia way back written form. I used this with my Radiance, and it sounds good. I've used it with both clears, the MG and the OG. Okay, it does a really good job with all of them. The barrels here on the connectors can be a little bit thick. They fit the recesses of Focals okay, but I've had some in here, like these did not fit the Meze 109 Pro. They do not fit the Rossen Rad Zero and those recesses and all that. So I mean, you can find headphones for which this doesn't fit. Though check on GraveDigger's website. They might have different connectors you can opt into that are a little bit narrower that you can get in there. But this cable is like, it's kind of a generalist. It does not super stand out in any particular sonic trait. It has a fairly neutral frequency response presentation that I can tell. It's kind of a jack of all trades there. Not a super standout trait, but it just does everything pretty well. So it's a very good generalist, gets along well with a lot of things. It's well made and all of that. So it's just a really rock solid option that can stick with you a while. So even if you do a headphone upgrade, as long as the connectors still fit, like you can still get good use out of this thing. So it has a good value proposition in that way to go with it. The Forza. I've had this one around for quite a while too. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I listened to the Odyssey's LCD5 through this when I did my review of that one like 2 years ago. Okay, I've had it around a while. And I got it because the stock cable on my LCD2 is long dead. And so I needed a cable, and a friend was offering this for sale at a pretty good discount. It was used. So it's an older cable, so it might look a new one might look just slightly different from Forza these days. Okay, but I've gotten a lot of good use out of it. I've used it for, again, the LCD5 review, my LCDX, both open and closed, the 2021 editions. This would have been used on those. Let's see, what other ones in here? Most of the ZMF reviews that I've done, I would have used this cable at some point and all of that. So it's been really useful, really helpful to have it around here. And like this one, it's bigger, thicker. It has a heavier weave on it. You saw that it does like tangle up a little bit, but like or just kind of like get caught on itself as it loops around, but it still lies nice and flat on the desk. It doesn't have a lot of memory to it or anything like that. Very well made, but it is, again, it's thicker and it's heavier than some of the others. And then this one has a bigger barrel here at the Y. And if you're like me and you're a sufferer of a bit of a belly jelly, this thing can get snagged between my desktop and my big old gut, okay? And like there's more chance of it getting caught down there just because of how like big in diameter that is, okay? But it's extremely well made, okay? There. So this is, again, another really solid run, a middle of the road kind of cable. Even though it's a hybrid conductor and it has silver in it, I don't hear a ton of the typical sonic traits of silver coming through on this one. This one, again, tends a little bit more towards mid-range, or warmth, I should say, excuse me. A little bit warmer presentation, a little bit less presence in the treble, brings down the treble a little bit. So very good at taking out sibilance and that sort of thing if that bothers you. If you're treble sensitive and you don't like sharpness in your treble at all, that brings a lot of that down, but still maintains a good solid detail retrieval and a nicely holographic spatial presentation here. So really solid option there. Now I can't compare all of these mid-range cables that I've shown you so far directly to each other, because again, some of them are 3.5, some of them are mini XLR. Since I've talked now about the two mini XLRs, let me just do a quick comparison of those two together. The Gladiator Fusion, is that the right name? Fusion Harmony, yes. A little bit brighter, okay, a little bit more like initially detail forward. I don't know if there's actually more resolution in any of that. It's a little bit more pinpoint, I would say, in its spatial imaging and its separation compared to the Forza. The Forza is a little bit warmer here. It has a little bit better mid-range separation. A track that I listened to compare these two on was Seven Bridges Road by Eagles, a live recording there where it's a live recording, so you get audience noise going all around you, and then you've got like at least a 4-part, or is it a 5-part? A 4 or 5-part male vocal harmony going on. I thought that this one, the Gladiator, helped position the audience sounds around you a little bit more accurately, and it sounded just a little bit more three-dimensional. But it was also like maybe just a touch artificially separated. Like it was almost like a little too pinpoint, like a little bit too much right here. This one was not quite as, like this one's stage is bigger, like bigger sound stage. And it didn't sound quite as pinpoint, but it also it didn't sound quite as accurate because it was just a little bit more blended together. Just a little bit more blended together. Then I thought the Forza also separated the male vocal sounds from the actual music a little bit better. Like they still blended together nicely because it's a harmony. But, you know, you could hear Don Henley's voice a little bit more distinctly from Joe Walsh's voice, from Don Feldman's voice, you know, like those kinds of things. Like they did a little bit better job of that than this one. But then again, also, the brightness here is going to help out darker sounding headphones like the LCD2. The warmth here is going to help out brighter sounding headphones like the LCDX. You know, just throw that out again. So a comparison between those two on that. Okay, let's take a quick look at the other Gladiator here. And this is, again, the one that is kind of borderline getting into high-end territory. Okay, and this, again, is the Argento Pure Silver Lits. And same kind of build quality as the first one. You get the Gladiator helmet going on here, which, again, I think is kind of cool, even if it does snag on things every now and then. Okay. The 3.5 millimeter barrels on this one were just a little bit too big to fit the Meze 109 Pro and the Rawson Rad Zero, okay, but it fits most everything else that I've had come through here. All right, you see a little bit of memory looping back on itself, but it does eventually lay flat, and like if you hang this over a hook, like I've coiled it up here recently, if you hang it over a hook, it does straighten out a little bit. Okay, this kind of has a more stereotypical silver conductor sound where it's a little bit brighter but highly detailed. The treble still, for the most part, even though there's like a fair amount of treble presence, is very smooth and well controlled and natural sounding to my ear. It still has good bass presence. It's just like it trends a little bit brighter overall. And so forth. So again, if you have a headphone that is a little bit warm, dark, and you want to brighten it up a little bit, this can be a good option. If your headphone is bright and sharp, you're okay with brightness, you like some treble presence, but it's just a little too sharp for you, a little bit too much sibilance, this also does a very good job of smoothing out the treble, very good tonal balance through the top end there. Also very holographic spatial presentation and all of that. So this is again getting pretty borderline high end. I really liked the way this sounded with the new Hi-Fi Men Aria Organic. It also does a pretty good job with the HE1000 SEV2, which I believe they call, or the Stealth Magnet edition of that one anyway, which they just call the HE1000 Stealth anymore. Okay. Really good there. If you want a direct comparison between that and the GraveDigger, okay, this one is a little bit brighter, more resolution, better overall tonal balance, like all that that kind of stuff, more holographic spatial presentation, lays nicer on the table, okay? But it's also like, you know, half again as much as this one is. This one's about 200. This one is a little over 300, so this one should be better, and it is, okay? So there we have it. I can recommend any and all of these cables in the right setting, okay? And again, I can't compare all of them directly to each other because they have different connector types and so forth, but I've had all of these around for some amount of time now. They all are really good in certain settings, and I have no problem recommending any of them, again, depending on what kind of headphones you have. So silver tends to be a little bit brighter. If you just are a treble sensitive person or you just don't like brightness, you might want to go copper. Hybrids can be in the middle, right? Like, it depends on what kind of hybrid you have. Like, this one here is a hybrid, but it's a little bit on the brighter side, takes on a little bit more sound of silvery kinds of things. The Noir hybrid here is also a copper-silver hybrid, but it sounds closer to a pure copper cable to me than a silver cable, okay? This one, the GraveDigger, strikes a good balance in the middle. The Audiophile Ninja, the Hart, both excellent, excellent starting points, okay, in your journey. All right, so I think I will go ahead and wrap it up there for part 1. Please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, check out my PayPal, my Patreon, do all of those things you do to support YouTube channels, and be on the lookout for part 2, where I talk about a variety of more expensive headphone cables there. So thanks for watching and enjoy the music.